Welcome. Today I'm going to show you CapCut. So that video that this morning we edited on LumaFusion, I'm now going to import it into CapCut and add transitions and titles. New project, press the plus sign. I think it's that one with the road, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Straight away, let's press text, auto captions, start. And that will take the audio, the whole audio, and turn every word that it hears into text. Let's go into... Yeah, the auto captions takes a little while, but the thing is you can still play while that's happening. Oh, see, it's done. We've had a weird road. Let's do that. Oh, see, in this trending section, there's always new ones coming up. This blue mosaic, that's new. And the poster stroke is new. God, this is a good app. Anyway, I'm going to basic because I'm liking some of these basic transitions. See how the portrait open? The vertical open is pretty cool. Rectangle, snow. I like the snow open, actually. Let's do the whiteboard. Screw it.
We've had a weird road. Used to be.
I like it. And just press the tick. Okay, now we've got to change the font. So you press the text. And then you go back. Oh, where is it? Text. Text. Maybe double click. Yeah. Font. Oh, what's it doing? Font. Style. I like to have put a little bit of a border on it. And then the font. English. What's bangers? Oh. I don't mind that. And I'm not going to use that much text. It's just going to be like for really important words. Let's just do this one. Allegria. And this style, I like to add a bit of bold and then a bit of spacing between the characters. Yes. Oh, and a shadow, why not? Why wouldn't you? Okay, and then we move it into the middle.
We've had a weird road. Used to be that everything that was imperial.
So you just say everything was imperial.
We've had a weird road. Used to be that everything that was imperial, and you had a British system.
Oh, that's nice. Maybe get rid of the R. Yeah, let's have a look at that. It's going to look
Used
cool.
to be that everything that was imperial, and you had a British system, a French system, a Japanese system, and those systems fought over colonies.
I'm going to click on the main track, go to adjust, and then I'm just going to make the brightness, lower the brightness so that the letters pop out a bit more. And I'm going to saturate the colors a little bit, and I'm going to add a little vignette. then I'm going to add a mask so it looks like it's the cinema. See what I mean? Beautiful. I'm tempted to put a transition on the... We've had a weird road. Maybe just for the first one. I'll put a transition. So you click the title, press animation, in, and I like the blur. It seems to be the more fancy ones at the beginning, so you scroll to the end if you want something simple. I think the blur is the most modern looking one. It's quite simple. I'll show you.
We've had a weird road. It used to be that everything that was imperial, and you had a British system, a French system, a Japanese system, and
Oh, let me show you something really cool. Actually, yeah, this is why I wanted to use these clips. See how there's sunlight in them? There's the sun there and the sun there. So you can go like that and then press effects, video effects, go into shadow. Have a look at this. Oh my God. You can do this halo effect, leak 1, leak 2, sunset light, radiance, sunset 1, sunset 2, sunset 3, prism, halo. Oh, should we go the halo? Because it's in the right spot for the halo. I'm going to do the halo.
you had a British system,
Let's have a look at this. You can hardly notice it because there's so much halo already in the shot.
imperial, and you had a British system, a French system, a Japanese system, and those systems fought.
But it just helps blend them, you know, so that it makes the images look more consistent, like it's from
you
the
had a
same
British
video.
system, a French system, a Japanese system, and those systems fought over colonies or an access and trade lane.
Go back to text because we need to get rid of this. Fought over colonies, access and trade lanes.
Colonies or an access and trade lanes that brought us World War II.
And then World War II, that's dramatic. So the transition here could be something else even. Let's have a look. Effects, video effects. Let's go the halo.
That brought us World War II, but at the end of the war,
Yeah, because it makes it look like
that brought
the
us
start
World
of it.
War II, but at the end of the war, the Americans drew their allies to.
When they drew their allies together, that was at the Bretton Woods conference. Oh, I'd love to just put up a photo of the Bretton Woods conference. Oh, why did I do that? Hang on, what am I doing? Delete. Sorry, it's late in the afternoon. My brain's not really working. At the end of the war,
The Americans drew their allies together and said, "We're going to try."
Let's do that. I'll show you how to do it. So you just open up a page. This is the Dream Studio, by the way. I did type in Bretton Woods in there earlier. It wasn't great. Let's look up Bretton Woods. Images. Yeah, this is then. This is when it happened. All these old fellas getting together. Is that the only photo? It's not great, is it? It'll do. Okay, so then you go back into LumaFusion. No, not LumaFusion. What are we doing? CapCut. Brought their allies together, and then you go into Overlay, Plus, Photos. There she is. And that'll just pop up. The cool thing about it is it blurs. Does it? Oh, sometimes it makes it a little bit transparent. That'll do. And then you can transition it. So you press animation, and I like to do a combo. Now these transitions are crazy. These slide and they're all a bit much. So again, slide to the end for the basic ones. See, none of them are really subtle. None of them are, maybe just faded in. I'd love to do like a glitch. See, bisect too, like that comes in, but then it like goes. What about the train? Train.
Said we're going to try something a bit different.
See, I don't see why another photo comes up at the end. Can I just make that shorter and it won't do it? No, it does it. It's annoying. Yeah, see, it's a bad effect. Just when I was saying how wonderful CapCut is. Like, instead of having 1,000 transitions, why don't they just have one that's good? Anyway, I'm sure one day I'll find one that's good. What about this flip 6?
Said we're going to try something.
What the hell is that? Where the hell's fade? I just want to fade at the end. To be right at the end, is it? Sway in, spin in, fall in, yo-yo. There has to be a fade. Doesn't it? There is, I can't find it. Maybe the problem is because I'm doing the combo. Let's do in and out separately. Animation in. Oh, see, there we go. Oh, and there's less. I still can't see fade. Maybe I don't have, because I don't have my glasses on. Never takes too long. What's this rock vertical?
Said
I don't mind that. It's rocketing.
gather and said we're going to try something a bit different. Instead,
and then to go out, we're just going to zoom it out. Oh, there's the fade out.
try something a bit different. Instead of everyone having to fight for everything.
Go back to the text so we can adjust this text. Having to fight for everything.
We're going to use our Navy to... control the global oceans so that anyone...
If there's a lot on the screen and you want to break it up, you just press the clip, the title clip, and then you split it up. So then the beginning, you can just go, so that anyone, and then the second one I'm just going to have go anywhere. And the third one, at any time, an interface with any partner.
With any partner and access any...
I'm going to cut this one as well. Or market, and then I'm going to cut this as again. Or market. Or supply chain. There's just one catch.
Time and interface with any partner and access any raw material or market or supply chain. There's just one catch. You must be on our side. We bribed up an alliance to fight the Cold War, and we know this as globalization. This is what brought us...
I'm going to try something fancy here. So we know this as, and then I'm going to add another title. But I'm going to use the text template. See there, you press text template, then you have all these templates. The thing is, you can't change them. You can't change the colors or the fonts or whatever. They just are what they are. So you've got to find one you like. I like the Follow Your Dreams one. I've used that a few times. Let's have a look in the title section. The titles are not great, to be honest. They're all a bit over the top. We'll see, this one's sort of okay. Let's just write globalization. Let's do it in all caps. Globalization. Let's make it a little bigger. Why is it not fitting on the one word? On the one line. There we go. And then delete the top line. You can do that, I think. Oh, there it is. Delete that, follow your, and I'll just say globalization. Let's make it go down there. We know this is globalization. Why does follow your still come up? And then I think you can animate that. Can you? Oh, you know what's cool? You can make it track an object. So see those people, or that person in particular. I'm going to make it follow him. See what happens.
And we know this as globalization. This is what brought us global finance and manufacturing and energy and the rest. And that has changed.
Didn't really work. I'm gonna have to learn how to do that to go on YouTube. I saw someone do it, but clearly I didn't pay attention. They made it look easy, of course. This is globalization. Brought us.
Know this as globalization. This is what brought us global finance and manufacturing.
Manufacturing and energy. Let's have a look.
This is what brought us global finance and manufacturing and energy and the rest. And that has changed the way we live. Because
I like the piano music.
And that has changed the way we live. Because when people got the opportunity to industrialize and globalize, we urbanized. We moved off the farm to take those manufacturing and services jobs. And when you live on a farm, kids are free labor, so you have a whole bunch of them. You play that forward 70
See,
years,
there's my clock.
and it's not that we're running out of children. That happened.
I'm actually liking this video.
That happened 40 years ago.
Just as it is.
We're now running out of adults. And it is impossible to run a modern economy without a consumption base and a worker base. And we've always known we were going to hit this point in this decade. Certain things have been able to speed up the progress.
I'll show you a little transition. You go to the last frame of the, so go to those people, press that clip, and then where is it? It's effects, video effects, basic. I'm going to use that. Snow open, so it'll make a black screen, and then the next
Certain things have been able to speed up the process a little bit.
the next scene will be start with being snowy.
Certain things have been able to speed up the process a little bit. COVID is absolutely near the top of that list because all of a sudden everyone saw a health reason to reshore a lot of the supply chain. So we got a kind of a jump start on reshoring and breaking up the global system of supply that we've become used to. The leadership of the United States, the willingness of the American...
Just wondering if we need a transition here.
The leadership of the United States, the willingness of the American political system to kind of hold up the civilizational ceiling and keep the world safe for transport, that's gone. And as we're seeing with the Ukraine war, as countries try to take advantage of this for their own reasons, it leads to more and more disruption. Countries are trying to carve out little bits of this for themselves. The problem that they're going to discover is that a lot of the countries that Americans think of as problematic, Russia, China, Iran, they're actually more dependent upon globalization than most of the countries we like. They're dependent upon...
I like how this is looking.
Access to foreign markets to sell their wares or their energy or to purchase products that they can't make themselves. It's not that I'm going rah America here. The United States never globalized.
I wonder if I could add a sticker that means like rah rah America, maybe a flag. Let me show you the stickers. So you press stickers, and then I'm in Indonesia, and it was just Independence Day, which is why they have those ones at the top. I want sort of a waving American flag. See, this is the problem with CapCut, is there's loads of stickers, but you don't know where they all are. And you have to download them from the internet, so it depends on how fast your internet is. I'm doing rah America here. It's taking so long. Let me just get my drink. I'm going to abort that mission. Just keep playing it on, and I'm going to get my drink while you watch this.
Themselves. It's not that I'm going rah America here. The United States never globalized because globalization was a bribe.
I can
If
still
we had
listen.
globalized, we would have just been another empire, and very few countries would have had reason to make common cause with us. And so we allowed our manufacturing base to be somewhat hollowed out, which means that when globalization goes away, we don't suffer nearly as many as most of the countries out there. Before globalization, you could only have something if you could make it within your own network. If you didn't have oil, you didn't have transport. If you didn't have fertilizer, your food production was incredibly low and you had a very light population. If you didn't have iron ore, you weren't going to have steel, so you weren't going to have railways. Globalization allowed everyone to take what they had or what they could be good at and trade that for something else, and that created global trade in the form that we now recognize. There's two paths here. One is to use state policies to lower the cost for being young parents. I'd say Sweden has been partially successful. The downside is that the policy is in Sweden, for your first kid you get 9 months maternity leave, for your second kid you get, I believe it's 15 now, and it goes up with each kid. What they discovered with that policy is if you were a woman and you were under 30, no one would ever hire you, because you could show up for your first day a week of work, get hired, say that you're pregnant, and they wouldn't see you for 6 years. And you had to pay them. So we got this weird sex dynamic in the workforce that was not healthy at all. The other way to do it is just to have a system that naturally keeps the cost of living low. So cheap land, cheap electricity, cheap housing.
I need to scroll back quickly just to check that none of them took up more than 2 lines. Oh, that one did. And that one. Oh shit, what am I doing? Could do it like this, actually, just scroll it. It'd be quicker than listening to it. And I'm kind of over it tonight. I've been working all day and I'm tired. Oh. The other way to do it, but let me crack on. Where are we at? We're 4 minutes. We've got to get to 14. 10 more minutes. Ganbarimasu. Let me add a transition here. So we go into effects, video effects, shadow, and let's just add a little light leak.
Among the lowest in the advanced world.
See how it just connects these two images so that they look like they're part of the one video.
New Zealand is among the lowest in the advanced world, right there with the United States.
Doesn't look
Will this
amazing.
evolve in time?
It's better when
Of
there's
course.
like
We're
a bit of
changing the rules of the
light
game.
in the
Of course,
actual
things are going to
shot.
be different. But that has meant that New Zealand and the United States have had the highest birth rates in the advanced world for 50 straight years. Consider American-led capitalism or European democratic socialism or fascism. These are all different methods for managing.
I reckon we can add a little transition here. Shadow. Let's go leak
for
one.
managing
Oh, I
economic
like that.
system.
That looks
Methods for managing economic systems, for regulating supply and demand, labor and investment. But every single one.
good. Still another one. You can't have too many transitions, I reckon.
And labor and investment. And demand, labor and investment.
They're kind of abrupt. I wish they sort of faded on. You can dissolve them, no.
Supply and demand, labor and investment. But every single one of them is predicated on.
You can adjust them. Like you can take the opacity down so they're less full on. That's pretty cool.
Supply and demand, labor and
Oh,
investment.
and change the
but every
speed of them.
single one of them.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
But every single one of them is predicated on something that has been true since the dawn of recorded history. Populations get bigger. Not at the same rate, not the same every year, but the pie always increases. So it's about divvying up.
Don't you like the words he uses? Divvying up and persnickety? He's definitely Gen X, not a boomer.
So it's about divvying up a larger and larger resource. That's not the world we're in anymore. The advanced world's population has already peaked. In the case of Germany and Japan, it's been declining for quite some time. And for most of the rest of the advanced world, it will pass the peak this decade. The pie's not getting bigger anymore. We need
Gotta fix this pie.
the pie's not getting bigger anymore. We need
like
a
these
different
shots.
economic model. And if you look at our history, look at the last 10 major wars, including the world wars, but not limited to that.
Oh, look at how the music changes when that comes on. It's pretty cool. Let me show you another transition you can do. Go towards the end of the clip. Click it. Go into effects. I've actually added this to my favorites, haven't I? No, I haven't. It's in basic. Oh, no, it's trending all the time. Here it is, Halo Blur. So,
Not limited to that.
what it does is it blurs the image. So if you blur the end of that image and the beginning of that image, it'll work like a transition. And it makes the writing pop out a little bit more because the background's blurred.
Including the world wars, but not limited to that.
Including the world wars.
But not limited to that. At their core, it's about geography, it's about resource access, and it's about economic theory.
I love this shot. Do you remember this one for when I do the AI animations? I think we can do something with that.
It's about geography, it's about resource access, and it's about economic theory and how. How you apply it.
It's very windy here today.
Theory and how you apply it. All of a sudden, that last part that we've struggled over for centuries, we have to figure out again. And we are not going to get.
Let's make that again big. Because he sort of makes a big thing about that one. I could just add the text and make it match. That would take too long. See, that retrofit ideas kind of looks cool. See, because the main thing I want is the animation. What about this? Before. To change the text, you click it.
Again, and we are not going to get it right on the first. Going to get it right on the first try. And we're certainly not going to get it right this decade. The Han ethnicity has been the dominant population block of the territory we recognize as China today for 3,500 years, but they've only actually been in charge of China for about 75 of those years, most of which is under the American-led globalized order. So the idea that China is even remotely capable of playing the long game is historically just kind of funny. The more important factor is that we're going to see the end of the Chinese system this decade. And I don't mean the end of the Communist Party, I mean the end of central. This decade. And I don't mean the end of the Communist Party, I mean the end of central governance in China. Party, I mean the end of central governance in China. The issue is that the Chinese came late to globalization. They didn't really start the process of industrialization broad scale until the late 1980s, early 1990s. And when you start the process later, you're able to learn from the people who came before. So it took the Brits 7 generations to industrialize. It only took the Germans 4. It only took the Koreans 3. It only took the Chinese 1. And that sounds great, and it generates some of the fastest economic growth. And that sounds great, and it generates some of the fastest economic growth in human history. However, it means they compressed the entire process into 4 decades. That sounds great, and they went from pre-industrial poverty to kind of this, I don't want to call it post-consumer, but definitely a highly advanced system very, very quickly. But that means they also made the demographic transition very quickly, going from pre-industrial rice paddy subsistence farming to living in...
See, the AI is pretty good at picking up the words. Like it got Han ethnicity, but it just didn't get paddy. And to be fair, if you say paddy and paddy, what's the difference?
Industrial rice paddy subsistence farming to living in high-rise condos in a single generation. So they went from having 6 and 7 children per woman back in the 1970s to 1.1.
It's not great with punctuation. It doesn't do the point and doesn't do percentages.
1.1 today, which means that the Chinese population is already in collapse. And with the new data that has come out...
I would like to do some more of those words that I did with the again. I'm seeing other words that would pop out, but I think I'll do that on the next run through.
And with the new data that has come out actually since the book
I'm
published,
so sleepy.
we now know that there's going to be less than 650 million Chinese by 2050. And that means we're facing complete economic collapse. This decade, because by the time we get to 2030, there will actually be far more retirees in China than there are working age people, and no children to speak of to generate the next generation at all. And Shanghai and Beijing have the lowest birth rate of any metro region.
Do we need to transition to match that piano? I think so. It can be dramatic because it's a dramatic thing. Let me show you in these basic ones, there's all these really cool things that it does, see? Like it does a little photo. A zoom. Wide out. I actually like the camera shake.
And Shanghai and Beijing have the lowest birth rate of at all. And Shanghai and Beijing have the lowest birth rate of any metro region in any era in any country in history. And we now have the Chinese officials publicly discussing, not happy about it, but discussing that they actually overcounted their population by 100 million people, and all of those people would have been born since the one-child policy was developed, so age 40 and under. And then most of those were women. They aged past the point of
They aged past the point.
of being able to repopulate probably 15 years ago, and their population probably actually peaked around 2005. Most Chinese now live in efficiency apartments. There's just no... Well, I expect we'll have a series of regional powers that are, if not immune, heavily resistant to the trends that I've identified. The United States and New Zealand are not the only country. The United States and New Zealand are not the only countries that have been able to maintain a reasonable birth rate. France and Turkey both make that list. So if your population is stable and you have a military that is kind of right-sized to your needs, and the resources you need are relatively close at hand, so you can get them yourself as opposed to having to depend on a global system that's breaking down, you can do pretty well. So France and Western Europe, Turkey and the Eastern Mediterranean, I would have put Japan in that category, but while I was writing the book, the Japanese and the Americans, first under Trump and then under Biden, basically cut a deal to get along over the long term. That makes the Japanese the only country that has successfully cut a long term.
I'm going to put a transition here because of the sun.
Deal with
the sun setting there. So we're just going to go into effects. Shadow. Let's do halo.
Deal with
Let's
both
adjust
sides
it
of the
so it's a bit slower and not as full on.
Deal with both. Fully cut a long term deal with both sides of the American. American political spectrum. So I now kind of consider Japan and the United States partners in the future, which for your part of the world is brilliant, because the last thing you would have wanted was the Americans and the Japanese duking it out in Southeast Asia. New Zealand sells dairy to the Western Hemisphere, let me rephrase that, to North America, are not going to ever be great because of the protected market. But you've got Southeast Asia right there, which broadly speaking is self-sufficient in basic foodstuffs and energy and raw materials. But if they're going to...
Let's chop that up. Split. I love how the title's right on that boat. Looks very cool. Makes it very easy to read.
Energy and raw materials, but if they're going to grow, they're going to need more of all of it, and that's where you and the Australians come into play in a very, very big way. Australasia will have the option of repeating what they've done with fueling the Chinese rise, with a bunch of countries that are closer, that are not nearly as politically persnickety, that don't try to take over other people's cultures or dominate their policies, and honestly are on a far more sustainable growth path than anything the Chinese were ever able to muster. There will be challenges. I think energy is probably going to be I think energy is probably going to be the biggest one for New Zealand, because you're going to have to get your petroleum from somewhere, and the Middle East is going to be as dicey as it's ever been, especially with the United States no longer there. A lot of these regional powers are going to have to try to get there themselves to get the energy, and the United States just doesn't care. That means for the Kiwis, you either need to find another source of energy or do what the Japanese have done and find a way to cut a deal long term with the Americans. Your land is perfect and your climate is perfect to grow almost whatever you want to do. So the reason you've shifted in the direction that you have is because in a globalized system, you're able to get top dollar for it. I do see that dialing back somewhat, but don't overplay that, because you've got Australia right. Because you've got Australia right next door. So the cereals question, that's
I'm sure he means cereals with a C. But it is hard. They're pronounced exactly the same.
So the cereals question, that's where you're least competitive. You can buy that from the Aussies and sell them the things that they're not good at. So I have very high confidence that the disruption...
Let's just add a little blur here. Video effects, Halo Glove.
So I have... They're not good at. So I have very...
Maybe...
Good at.
Make it less intense.
So I have very...
So it's not as jarring.
And sell them the things that they're not good at. So I have very high... So I...
Too late. I have
very high confidence that the disruptions to your system outside of the energy sector are likely to be manageable. Climate change gets tricky because, well, our math isn't that good yet. We know that the climate is warming. We know on average the path that we're on, and it's not great, but trying to figure out what it means for the specific postcode, that is just beyond our capacity. The best example I can give you is right here in the United States. Last summer, we had a heat dome form in the American Northwest, which is usually the chilliest part of the country and has very few days that are above 30 degrees centigrade ever. That heat dome settled over Portland, which is the chilliest and rainiest and cloudiest of our metro zones, and we hit not just 40 but 45 for 2 weeks straight. I mean, that's warmer than Las Vegas has ever been. No one predicted that. People can predict that the Northern Territories will get hot or the American South is going to be hot, but Portland? No. We can make...
I'm going to add an animation there for that note, because he goes up an octave, which I love. Look at those, are cool. I love these ones as well. See, now they're all downloaded. Maybe that one's better. Yeah, oh, where's it gone? Have you any notice?
Portland? No. We can make... Portland? No. We can make some broad brush statements, and I think it affects agriculture more than everything else put together. But we can't really tell what it's going to do to this or that city, at least not yet. The Russians are trying to plug the access points to their territory. Unfortunately for the Ukrainians, 2 of those access points are on the other side of Ukraine. Also, the Russian demography is the 2nd worst in the world, so if they're going to use military tactics in an attempt to secure a better future for themselves, they always had to do it now. So this always had to happen. It always had to happen about right now. The surprising bit is that even before deglobalization...
Why doesn't it recognize deglobalization as a word? Maybe because most of the world is in denial.
Even before deglobalization has really kicked in full force, is that the Europeans are taking lead on cutting Russia out of the system.
I know that's not a map in Europe. It's America, but...
lead on cutting Russia out of the system. And that sounds great from a moral point of view, but you're removing the world's 2nd largest source of exported crude from the market. At the same time, you're removing the world's largest source of fertilizers from the market. There is no way with those 2 things in the mix that we all make it through this. The breakdown in the fertilizer system, it was going to happen anyway because of the Ukraine war. It's happening much faster. Because of the Ukraine war, it's happening much faster. That is by far the thing I'm most concerned about overall. It will take us 20 to 30 years to rebuild the supply systems that we're losing right now. And in the time that we don't have enough fertilizer to grow food for 8 billion people, we won't have 8 billion people any longer.
Let's blur that out to match the beginning. There we go. So, you get the idea. I wasn't very productive in that session because I didn't really change a whole lot. But I very easily added all of the titles and checked that they all look good. Added a few transitions. But yeah, you can just go nuts with this, with the text and the transitions and the animations. But if the images are nice and the text looks good, I think it kind of looks cleaner without it, without doing too much. Yeah, it depends on the content. If it's like, you know, something that's really jumpy, you might want to add more. I am going to do another run later, but I'll just leave it at that for now. Thanks for watching.